Welcome back, guys. My name is Tyler Revell. I'm an outdoor adventure photographer. On this tutorial, we're going to be talking about just basic editing techniques that I like to use in my photos. On this one, I'm going to be including a preset and the photo that I took, so you can actually edit along with the same photo and do exactly what I do and learn from there. Take a look at the photo I took here. Now, I shot this photo midday, so you have to remember when you're shooting midday, your highlights are going to be really bright. So I try to basically underexpose my photos so that I can still capture the details in the highlights. Shadows and blacks, no matter what, will have so much more detail than highlights ever will. There's lots of details in the darks, but if something's blown out, you can't pull back that information. So the first thing we're going to do here, we're just going to crop that photo. It's a little bit off, looks a lot better. Now we're just going to be going through our basic techniques here. The first thing we're going to do is obviously bump the exposure. This photo's a little bit dark. It was shot midday, so like I said, we captured the highlights to the best of our abilities, and we can boost those blacks, we can boost those shadows after. So we're going to boost the highlights and the exposure right now to start pulling out some of the details. I like it around 80 there. We're going to increase the contrast. I like my images a little bit more contrasty, especially the landscapes. Now you can see at the top of the photo the sky is obviously super blown out at this point. So what we can do to fix that is pull back the highlights. That's going to bring back the detail in the sky that was there originally. We're going to leave it right around there so that we can adjust it when we need to. You can press J. Now, with J, it'll basically show you where your highlights are at. It'll show if it's too bright, if the darks are too black, or if the highlights are too bright. So press J, anything that's red is overexposed. The next thing we're going to do is going to pull up the shadows to start bringing out the detail that was a little bit dark there. So we're going to boost the shadows. And anytime we're boosting the highlights, we're boosting whites, I like to accompany it with making the darks a little bit darker. If you boost the blacks, boost the whites, boost the shadows, it's going to create an image that's unbalanced. So anytime normally I boost the whites and boost the shadows, I'm going to pull back the blacks and I'm going to increase the contrast a little bit. So we're going to pull back the blacks to around -14, that looks good there. Now, I like to make my kind of landscape images look a little bit more dreamy. And to do that, I pull the clarity down just a little bit. We're not losing too much detail. It just makes it seem like a little bit more realistic, more lifelike, something that you're seeing with your eyes instead of this high-powered camera. I like to add a little bit of dehaze, bring out the clarity. We're going to pull the saturation down a little bit. I like doing this a lot. Like I said, I want it to feel like a realistic image, and to kind of balance it out, like I said, everything's about balance, we're going to pull the vibrance up a little bit. Just enough to make it look real. Like I said, these are just your basic editing techniques. Now, we're getting into the tone curve here. A lot of you asked what the tone curve is exactly. And the tone curve basically affects the overall brightness and contrast of an image, therefore setting the overall tone of your image. The further left you are on the tone curve, that affects your darks, and the further right you are, that affects your highlights and your brights. So, like I said, I like to have balance in my images, so I like to pull down the blacks a little bit. Generally speaking, in my tone curve, I'll pull it down a little bit. I like to boost my mids and I like to boost my highlights, bringing back that balance. Darker darks, brighter brights, kind of equals everything out. And you can really mess around with your tone curve. If you find your blacks are too dark, you can pull up right on the edge, add a little bit of a fade. You know, this is basically your signature of your photos. Now, the last thing I kind of want to do for you guys is just a simple, it's not even an editing technique, I just like how it looks. I'm going to enable profile corrections. What that's going to do is it's going to take the data from your camera and basically adjust accordingly. So I shot that with a 16 to 35 2.8, and it's going to get rid of any natural vignette and enable lens correction so that there's no distortion. So those are a few basic editing techniques that I think really help out. The before and after is insane. Just being able to increase exposure, your contrast, play with your highlights all the way down to your blacks. You can really create an image that stands out with these basic techniques. Like I said, I'm going to be including these techniques in a preset that I made for you guys. You just have to go to the Dropbox link, download, and you can actually download this specific photo as well. I included the raw image in the Dropbox. Download them both and really play around with it. See what you can create on your own, and if you create something that looks like this, then you're well on your way. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed this video. It's my second one. Tried to be a little bit cooler this time. Let me know what you guys want to see next. Thank you.